Hello world. It's get my screen shared. Actually, let me double check. I don't have like one password open or something. That would be embarrassing. Okay, yeah. So let me get my screen shared. Oops, there we go. And if you've never been to office hours before, you're in for a real treat. This is your opportunity to come and ask me questions each week, and I do my best to answer. So you can watch the office hours anytime you like on YouTube, or you can join the office hours right now. You can ask questions here in the office hours channel on Discord if you're not available to watch or to join during office hours, and I'll answer them here. I always give priority to people who are in the meeting, but we normally have time for all questions. Last week, we didn't even get any, which was kind of wild. I think Taryn missed. It was just a little bit late. But let me see. I'm just going to answer Taryn's questions here. And yeah, so answering this now. All right, Taryn. My work is using its own custom setup for SSR and hydration for our website using Webpack, React, and Happy.js. Hey, what's up, Ben?
Hey, Kent.
How you doing?
I'm a little sick, but
Oh
mostly all
no.
right. Yeah. How about you?
Sorry. I'm doing fine. I took my son golfing this morning. He
Oh,
enjoys that, and
wonderful.
I enjoy being with him. But yeah, I don't enjoy golf, but he enjoys it. Sorry, one second.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll get back to you here in just a second. I was in the middle of answering Taryn's question, so I'll
Yeah,
answer
no
that
worries.
then. Okay, thank you. Okay, so React and Happy.js. I thought it would be fun to try and incorporate Remix as a potential route and offload all that work for that specific route to Remix. I know it's possible with Express to do this kind of setup. Any tips on doing it with Happy? Okay, so first of all, SSR, like doing custom SSR and hydration with Webpack sounds awful. That I mean, of course, people do it. But yeah, that yeah, I can definitely appreciate why anybody would want to try and use Remix instead. So yeah, sorry, one second. Uh, okay. And so what I would say is you've got a couple of options here. One thing that's kind of interesting is I actually just saw this repro from Kilman. Let's see, remix proxy base name. This is interesting. It is a simple example included Docker file that uses Nginx to route different paths of your app to different sections. So if you wanted to migrate over from your custom thing to Remix, this would be a way to do that without having to integrate the two. They're just two totally separate apps, and then you slowly move things over. I've seen people do this with Next.js as well. They implement the same thing. But yeah, you can also do this within the same app at the Express layer as well. With Happy, I've never used Happy before. I guess I should say, depending on your setup, Nginx might be simpler, or integrating it at the HTTP framework layer might be simpler. Depends on what you're more familiar with, probably. But anyway, with Happy, I've never used Happy before, but I'm sure that it has the same sort of capability. I expect that there is oh, I should probably link to this too. Here we go. I'm sorry that you're not feeling well, Taryn. That's too bad. Yeah, that's Ben too. Ben, did you get Taryn sick, maybe? Just kidding.
Across the internet.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I was looking for, yeah, Happy.js remix. I'll bet you there's somebody's built an adapter. Oh gosh. JS. Happy.js remix. There's got to be somebody here. Let's look on npm. Whoops. Happy remix. Really, zero packages found. All right. Well, you get to build this one. But what I can tell you is you can look at the adapters by Remix, and that should teach you a lot about what it takes to integrate a Remix into these different packages. So if you look at Remix Express and index here, just exports the server. Let's look at server. So it's 135 lines of converting. The job of the adapters is to convert the request response from the framework into a web fetch request response, and then deal with some load context and some stuff like that. So there's not a lot involved, and there's also a Remix Fastify that Logan put together as well. That's an actual package that he publishes. So we can look at that one. Also just a little over 100 lines, plus a couple other things. But yeah, so hopefully these give you a sense of what's involved in making a custom adapter. That's basically what you're probably going to want, is some sort of custom adapter, if you want to go this route, or you could do the Nginx approach. So you've got some options. I think that what I would probably do is make a custom adapter with Happy, so that you don't have to have two apps running. Well, three apps, because you have one app for your old thing, one app for the Nginx, and then one app for the new Remix thing. I think it'd probably be easier to just integrate them. But I don't know your setup, so it kind of depends. Okay, great. And then I'll get to this next question, Taryn, from you in a second. Ben is here and waiting patiently. So Ben, how can I help you? Also, thank you for helping me with your PRs and stuff.
Yeah, sure thing. I've been using it for my use case for something I'm building, and every time we improve something that can be contributed back, I try to.
That is like the peak of being awesome, because with a library, it's like you contribute back because you want to get those features in so that you can use them in your app. But with a starter, it's like, well, I already started and now I have this thing, and contributing back doesn't actually do any good for you necessarily. So I
Well,
really appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, to be honest, I'm glad to get the code review because I'm not always so confident about the changes I'm making.
Yeah, that's true. That is a good point.
So, for anyone watching the live stream who doesn't have the background, I've been submitting a bunch of PRs trying to fix the animations in the modals that are based on Remix subroutes, and there were some issues with the data loaded into the subroute being unloaded during the animation exit, and this causing some weird flashing. And I found I was able to stop that by loading the images into state inside the components. And so most recently, we're trying to figure out if there's some way to manage that at the level of a wrapper component, so that people using this pattern don't have to make that kind of state management in every little thing that they're doing.
Yeah, so do you just want to kind of review this and see if there's a good solution, or did you have something more specific you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if this is really actually suited to office hours. It's just
No, this is totally suited. If you want to review and kind of come up with a solution together, that we can do that.
okay. It's because when you said, what if we make a wrapper component, I was wondering if you had something in mind.
Yeah,
No.
I wish that I did. Actually, we got another question in here from, oh no, that's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure, honestly. I think I need to look at React transition. What was it called? Animation
React transition group. Yeah, just hyphens
Yeah.
between those.
I have a like, what is that? No, I want to see the source code of React transition group. Okay. Hold on a second. React.js, is that? I did not. That's React community. What the heck? Hold on. I definitely, is this official? Oh my gosh, no, it's not. It is, maybe? Yeah, holy smokes. I didn't know that React moved to an organization outside of Facebook. That's very interesting. I guess
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I
When did
believe
that
a lot of their
happen?
folks are with Vercel now.
Yeah. Huh. I guess I haven't been to the React repo in a while. Okay, that's very interesting. Very cool. All right. So I want to understand a little bit about how this works, because I think I have sort of an idea of how it might work, but not totally positive on that. Okay, let's see.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
to be honest, so this is I mentioned this article in one of my initial pull requests. So Jacob put out this piece, and honestly, I just copied a lot of what he had in there. So
Hmm.
I don't have a deep understanding of the inner workings of the library either.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I noticed that animated outlet thing. Yeah, so let's see. Adding animations never slows it down. A page instant. Hmm. A stable reference to outlet element instead of creating a new component. We need to freeze the outlets routing context so it doesn't re-render during navigation. That I think might be the piece that we're missing, maybe. Wrap. Oh, that's
So
interesting.
this is already in place, and
Yeah. Um, hmm. World frozen. Huh. Here, let's see. I'm gonna look at the current state of things in the Epic stack as well. Awesome. Let's go to use outlet. There you are. So one difference is we Ryan has context outlet. So he calls this context. That's interesting. So maybe this was an API change or something.
yeah, maybe this would have been a few years ago. So
Yeah, yeah. So this, maybe he was just kind of coming up with the API. Yeah. So I mean, it makes sense that world frozen. That's all we need. So, like, from what I can discern from the behavior, I think what's happening here is we start the transition, triggering a re-render of this component. And so then the data becomes undefined. So what I'd really like to be able to do is just this.
Mhm.
And let's see. Yeah, that's it. So I'm not sure how we can make that happen. Also, mine, I feel like mine looks different from what's in your PR. Oh no, you add the state. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm very curious how this actually works though. Like where does it put the old DOM nodes and how does it because what I'm guessing is it somehow stores the old React elements and keeps those around itself.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna figure this out during our office hours. Uh, yeah, see, it's interacting with DOM nodes directly. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to figure that out. Okay, so cannot destructure data of use loader data as it's undefined. Yeah, okay, so then we do the or empty object. So I wonder what Jacob has to say about this particular problem. Maybe we should bring him in and maybe he's faced this and come up with a solution, or I wonder what his video does. Because like obviously he is using state, or well, maybe not. Well, I mean, he's using loader data. So that would be the thing that I think I would ask Jacob,
Mm,
see if he's run into this problem, and possibly open an issue on or a discussion on Remix and see if they
yeah,
have ideas. Because I'm afraid that I don't think that I've got time to dive too deep into this myself.
sure. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's
sorry.
something that might go all the way back to Remix.
Yeah, it may I don't think that it's something that we can't do with Remix. I'm sure that it's possible to make an abstraction that kind of hides away all the messiness. I
Mhm.
don't think there needs to be a change in Remix or anything. But I am thinking that well, I just don't know how. So if we ask in the discussions on Remix, maybe somebody will have an idea of
Okay.
what could be done. So probably would be good to come up with a minimal reproduction, though, just using the basic Remix server and everything. Just the create Remix, just the basics, and then make a little example. That way,
Mhm.
it's more likely that we'll get help when it's really simple, instead of
Right.
just like pointing to the PR and say, fix this. So,
Yeah. Yeah. My sense is that it seems like it's mostly a problem when you're using images or other things that take up screen space and come
mm,
in and out of being loaded. But
mhm.
that with most modal dialogues, it wouldn't be too much of an issue.
Yeah, for a lot of them it won't. But the biggest problem that I have with it is the uh, it violates the principle of least surprise,
Mhm.
where I feel like I'm just writing a regular component and then, oh yeah, I forgot because this is animated out. I have to think about this now.
Right.
And so, yeah, I feel strongly that there's a solution there. I just
Mhm.
don't know what it is.
Can I ask a bit generally about your thoughts on this modal subroute pattern?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
in the live stream that you sent, when you were talking with Ryan, the kind of the conclusion it sounded like you were coming to is that, oh, this is just not going to be accessible without JavaScript, and the progressive enhancement isn't going to be possible here. Um,
Hmm.
but I see you're still using the pattern now.
Hmm.
I mean, are those
Yeah,
things surmountable or?
yeah. So I have mixed feelings about this. The generally my feeling about modals is they are a hack for bad design.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I didn't think about how to design for like changing the profile picture. So I'll just stick a modal here so I don't have to worry about integrating that experience into the profile page.
Mhm.
Or I didn't think about how I can do a two-factor auth within the context of this profile page. So I'll just do a modal so I don't have to worry about it. But then for me, I really like being able to connect as much state as possible to the URL. And so I also have this competing part of myself that says, well, I want it to be connected to the URL, but I
Right.
also am not good at design. And so I'm just going to stick it in a modal. And so like these two weak, or I guess this is a weakness and this is the strength. Like I do want things connected to the URL. So arguably a better solution would be figure out how we can do this as part of the UI. Maybe it just takes us to a new page
Mhm.
entirely. That would probably be better. Um, uh, and then as far as like being accessible without or before JavaScript, that is a thing that bothers me. I would really like it if we had a modal solution implemented here that just rendered, like, you land on the page, there's no animation, it just renders the modal in place. And at the end of that live stream, I found a way to do that. I'm not sure how, or if I actually don't, I don't know if that will work with Radix and their modals, because they rely on having a DOM node that they can mount their portal to and stuff. I think in my solution, in that live stream, I was using Reach Dialog. I can't remember. I think they use a portal too. So I figured out some way to do that. I think I was doing the Instagram approach, where it's like, if you land on the page, it's not a modal, but if you navigate, it is.
Right.
That
was one thing that mystified me a bit, because I haven't used Instagram enough to.
Yeah. I also
you're constantly referencing
it. Yeah, but Twitter used to do that too. I was really happy when they stopped doing that. So yeah, I would also accept a pull request that gets rid of the modal in favor of just a separate page. I don't think that it makes sense to be nested. One of the problems with doing a separate page is it kind of takes the user out of context with where they're at. But like, if we update the breadcrumbs or something at the top, because like right now there's a breadcrumb of 1, but if we had another breadcrumb there that said, okay, now you're in the profile edit page, or like the avatar edit page, or now you're in the 2-factor auth page, and made it easy for people to go back, then I think that would be okay. Yeah, I think if we can't figure out how to take care of this animation problem, then I would prefer to do that. And then even if we do figure out the animation problem, because it would be a nice thing to, I mean, modals are useful in some situations too, even if they're not connected to the router. Even in that scenario, I still want to figure out the exit animation thing. So that would be useful. But yeah, at this point, I'm thinking maybe we should just spend 5 minutes switching it to use a separate page instead of a modal, and then move on with our lives.
Yeah. It's probably a pattern I'm overusing in my application as well.
It really is. It is the easiest way to get out of things you don't want to do, or like a design you don't want to figure out, is like, oh, I need to, do a confirmation thing. Like, they click on this delete thing, I want to make them confirm that they want to delete it. Well, we'll pop up a thing and give them text that explains the warning and stuff like that. That's just the easiest approach. But it really is, I think it's a shortcut, a design shortcut. And I'm not a designer at all. So yeah, I can't judge anybody for wanting to take a shortcut like that.
Okay, well, this is probably enough time spent on this particular issue, so I'll let you move on to the
yeah, sure. Thank you so much for all of your contributions, Ben. It really is appreciated.
Sure thing. Thanks for Epic Stack and
sure,
everything else. Okay,
cool. All right, Amir, answering. Oh wait, no, I think we had another question from Taryn. Oh yeah, we got a couple up here. All right, and I think I answered that right on here. Yeah, we figured that one out as using Cloudflare wrong. So fun fact, a lot of people think, oh, well, I've got to put a CDN in front of it if I want it to be fast. My website is pretty dang fast, and it does not use a CDN. It not even Fly technically has a statics option where it will put your static files on its all of its regions and stuff. But I can't control the cache headers for that, and so I don't use it. They will eventually fix that, but it's not a priority for them. So yeah, all of these static assets, these are 100% being served by my server. My server is actually sending every one of these assets, and yeah, it's still pretty dang fast. So I don't really worry too much about the CDN. Yeah, obviously, a lot of use cases you want to use a CDN, but sticking Cloudflare in front of Fly is often leads to problems. At least as I've been told from the Fly folks, is they don't recommend it. And so, yeah, maybe this is one of the reasons you run into problems like this. So, okay, answering this question now. All right. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm building an app where users can move different objects, text, images, SVGs on the screen with their mouse and also resize them. Each object has corresponding input boxes, X and Y coordinates, and a scale factor in the sidebar. These inputs, it sounds like you're building a Figma sort of thing. These inputs can be used to change the position and scale factor of the object instead of using the mouse. I want the values in these input boxes to get updated in real time when the user moves the object or resizes it with the mouse. It can be easily achieved with global state like Redux, but in a Remix app where using global state is discouraged, that would what would be the best way to do this? The issue is the mouse movements generate hundreds of events, and sending them all to an action would likely would be like a DDoS attack. Yes. Even maybe without the extra D, it's not distributed if it's coming from one device, but then you have like many users, and now I guess it is distributed. Even if the requests are canceled in the browser, the server will still have to process them. Please advise. Yes, it sounds like you have a very good understanding of the problem. I understand the problem. And so there are a couple options here. My guess is that these values do need to be persisted at some point. But you don't necessarily need to persist them as the user is moving things around. You can persist it when the user drops it. And so this isn't a global state problem. This is a local state problem, local to the editor thing that you're doing, which for all intents and purposes, if that's your app, then yeah, that'll technically be global, but still can be managed probably at the component level. Unless like other elements need to know where other elements are and stuff, possibly. Kind of depends on your use case. So it may be a situation where you need to use a global state manager to manage as the user's moving things around. But once they let go and they are like, okay, I'm done, then at that point you can send it to the database. So that's probably what I would do. There's nothing in Remix that precludes using a global state manager. I think you're right that it is discouraged in the Remix community to use global state, but that's for stuff like, form input values and stuff like that. Or data that comes from the database and stuff like that. When it's a highly interactive UI, you betcha you're going to want to use state for that. Yeah, that's why we bring JavaScript along. Not everything needs to work without JavaScript. So that is what I would say. My guess is that you're probably going to use some form of global state, whether you need Redux for that or not. I wouldn't presume to say. If you're familiar and comfortable with Redux, then probably use that. And then just every now and then you tell the database, okay, here's the new position, or when the user's done dragging, then you update as kind of a debounce or a throttle sort of situation there. Probably what I would do. Good luck. All right, Taryn, don't want to repeat. Do you have any, see any issue with me using use memo like this? I believe you have a use MDX component that you use for an individual blog post, but I want to get the MDX components for all my today elements. Okay, so let me make that bigger. Okay, use the loader data, use that, use memo on the TIL list from the loader data, get MDX. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. That's fine. Yeah, this is actually what get MDX component. What do I do? I think I do the exact same thing as you said. So let's see. Have a use MDX that you use your individual blog posts. I want to get the MDX components for all my. Yeah, I don't see any problem with this. I suppose one thing that, okay, let me back up. One thing that could be a problem with this is you change, it just kind of depends on how much this could possibly change. So my guess is that the TIL list doesn't change ever as the user is using the app, and it only changes when you do an update to the content, which is pretty, doesn't happen often. And even when it does, the user's going to be like refreshing the page or navigating away and coming back anyway. So my point is this use loader data, the TIL list, that will only change when there's a mutation. So if you don't have any mutations on the page, then you're not going to revalidate the TIL list. But if you do have a mutation on the page and we get a revalidation, this TIL list will change. That's an array, will be a new array, may have this exact same content, but it's going to be a new array. And that will result in all of these components getting unmounted and remounted. Not great, especially with the size. If I recall correctly, you have a lot of these. That will trigger an unmount and remount of all of those components. So yeah, that'll be a problem. My guess is you were just trying to make a shortcut for this. And that is, I understand why you'd want to do that. But yeah, there's the big difference between what you're, so at first I said this looks fine. Now I'm saying it doesn't look fine. The big difference between what you're doing here with the use memo and the TIL list and what I'm doing, which is a use memo on the code string itself, is that if the code string doesn't change, then we don't have to make a new component. Whereas for you, if the code string changes, or if the code string doesn't change, you still have to make a new component as well. So that's what I would be concerned about. And I would recommend against doing this. But you're probably interested in what do you do? And what I would do is I would, you can't dynamically use memo. That just doesn't work. So what you do instead is you make a component and then you iterate over the TIL list. And in that component, you just get the one TIL, you create a component for that code, and then you can render that component. So what you're probably doing now is you're taking that the list of TIL components and dot mapping and then rendering those. Instead, you take the TIL list, map that, and then render this component. And inside that component, you have this use memo. That just depends on the code that you're given. So that is the solution. If you don't understand, then feel free to ask a follow-up if I wasn't clear. So hopefully that answers the question. Let me know. All right, back down here to Amir. Hope you're having a delightful day. So far, so good. Considering starting, oh, actually here, check this out. This is one thing I'm excited about. We sold out. Look at this, sold out. I can't believe it. I actually was planning on 30 people coming to this workshop and I would be thrilled that was sold out. We got up to that very quickly. And so we doubled it. I ran a test run of Gather. We're actually kind of got some people hanging out and experimenting right now. So I ran a test run of Gather and it went super well with over 60 people. So I said, okay, I can manage 60. I've done 80 before in a single workshop. And so yeah, we doubled it to 60 and we still sold out. I'm blown away. So anyway, super excited about that. So yeah, I'm having a delightful day. Yes. Starting a versioning and I'm considering starting versioning and writing and publishing the change logs of web applications of mine. Oh, cool. I have a few questions and doubts I was hoping you'd share your opinion on. I almost read that the word opinion as onion. So opinion. Is it worthwhile to do that versioning and stuff? I haven't noticed many websites in the wild that version themselves and publish their change logs. I'm not sure if this is because end users don't care or if it's simply too much trouble with little benefit. I'll start with this question. I think it depends. If we look at mobile applications, they do have change logs. Normally it's like bug fixes and sprinkled more pixie dust and whatever they do in their change logs that aren't very useful, but they write them because there's a space for it in when you're publishing updates to your app and you want people to update. Those are downloaded and installed. On the web, you can't not use the latest version of the app unless you're doing an installable PWA and they just say, no, I'm never going to refresh or something. You don't have the option. And so I think that's why the change logs in mobile apps are to incentivize people to hit the update button. But because there is no incentive needed, because you don't have a choice on the web, we don't need to incentivize anybody, and ergo don't have change logs. As a user, sometimes I'm interested in changes that happen in apps that I'm using. You'll notice occasionally when there's like big changes, Twitter will put out a press release and explain the new feature and stuff. If it's a product that you're using that you want to announce new features, then yeah, we'll do that. But like regular change logs, that's not really a thing. So that is a thing to consider. As far as like whether it's worthwhile, it can be, but not for every little change that you make. It can be useful for you. And like in the Epic stack, we've got the decision documents. That's useful for people coming in later. This isn't exactly a website, but it sort of is. Like it's a template for a notes app, and I'm describing changes that I make. Like, why did I change from Mailgun to resend? That can be useful for me later. So it may not be useful to your users necessarily, but it definitely could be useful to you. So just some things to consider. I'm not going to answer your question yes or no, but hopefully that answers that first question. I just realized I didn't tell Amir that I'm answering this now. So answering this now, just in case they're not available or watching. Okay. I don't think Semver would be a good fit here. Would you recommend using calendar versioning instead or something else? So my website actually does have versioning, sort of. I generate this build info file during the build process. And sorry, 1 second. Yeah, there we go. So this includes the SHA. You could consider that to be the version. And also a link to the commit, which is cool because it's even the message of the commit. I don't know if I would recommend doing that or even the author, just because unless your project is open source. Mine is open source, so people can see the message anyway. I don't mind the link, even if it's private. Like, feel free to stick the link in there. I don't think that makes a difference whether it's private or not. But yeah, so as far as versioning goes, I just use the SHA version. The problem with using that version as a version number is that you can't just look at it and be like, look at 2 versions and know which one's the newer one. So yeah, if I were in your position and that mattered to me, then I would probably use calendar versioning instead. That or at least some variation of that. If you look at Tesla software, if I'm looking at my Tesla app, they have a version at the bottom that says what version your car is running, and my version is 2023.7.15. I think 2023.7 is probably the month, year and month, and then the .15 is just the version number of the month, as my guess. So you could do something like that. Okay, are there any tools you know of that could make this process easier? I do not know of any tools that make this process easier. Chain sets, yeah, definitely more targeted toward libraries. You'll be fighting against the grain a little bit with some of that stuff. So good luck, Amir. Yeah, good luck. Taryn, you joined. How are you doing?
I'm still sick, but I have to work. I don't have any sick days left.
Yeah. Oh man, that stinks.
Yeah. How's it going on your end?
Super. Just chilling. Did you have any follow-up questions, or did you see my answers to your previous questions already?
I did see the one about the happy JS thing I was talking about. Did you answer the use memo question? I might have missed that one.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just I recommend scrubbing back. I've got a suggestion of a better way to do that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Cool. I hope you get feeling better, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. With the last 20 minutes, I'll go to Parsa. Hello. Answering this now. I hope your day is going well. Also, I have another boring stat question. Awesome. I'm making a real-time map-based app. It's a game, but it's a regular app. It almost had the interactions as a food delivery app, but requires lower latency. I'd like to use Remix or Next for their tooling, but I won't be able to make much use of fancy SSR or server components, etc. What would you use for a real-time web app that has a lot of dynamic functionalities and makes use of the browser APIs, geolocation, share, notification? Yeah, good question. I 100% would use Remix for this, even though you're not, you don't care so much about SSR or server components or anything like that. your users will appreciate the app loading faster, and it will do that if you're using Remix. Or even though like loading something on a CDN is going to be really fast, it sounds like you've got dynamic stuff going on in here, and so your app will definitely be faster loading that dynamic stuff if you use SSR. So yeah, 100% use Remix. I would recommend starting with the Epic stack. It will definitely satisfy the requirements that you've got here. Using geolocation and shared notification, all that stuff, totally legit. You can totally do this with Remix and have a great time doing it. So yeah, use Remix and have an awesome time doing it. All right, Steven got a question here, and answering this now. Okay, so ask a question in general, want to get your perspective. I'll look at that in a second. I'm making a blog and I like to share what I learned, but I'm worried what will happen if someone copies my content. I'm not well known like you, so people may think I'm the one copying others. Have you ever had to deal with a situation like this? Can cross-posting to dev dev.to and similar places help with this? If you were to start a blog over, what tips would you give newbie Kent? Good question. Okay, let me just, oh yeah, I saw this. Okay, so my answer is don't worry about it. In fact, this is not intended to be mean, but take a step back and think about you must feel pretty good about yourself to think that somebody will want to copy you or that somebody will be reading your blog posts in the first place. Like I said, not intended to be mean at all. People will probably read your blog posts and they will probably be good. But the fact is, we think really highly of our stuff and are, as a result, very protective of it. But it turns out that that a lot of people won't even notice that you're posting, and that's not why you post. You post for yourself, or at least I posted for myself. So this is exactly what I did as a newbie. I never worried about people copying me. Eventually, when I did get to the point where my content got enough attention that people cared, I definitely got copied. And in fact, I've been copied for stuff that people pay for as well. You can get free versions of all of my stuff pretty much on pirating sites and stuff like that. If you do that, you're selling your integrity. And I think that that is a ridiculous thing and you should stop doing that. But yeah, people absolutely do. And I don't think about it at all. If that's what they want to do with their integrity, that is their business. Actually, it's my business and they're stealing my business, but it's fine. It's whatever. I don't think about it ever. So yeah, I would not worry about that at all. Not even a little bit. Just keep producing awesome content. If anybody ever approaches you and says, hey, this looks exactly like this post, you say, yeah, I posted it. Look at the Git history, make it open source. And then people will be able to see when you committed. That would be one way to combat that, I guess, if you're worried about it. But yeah, don't worry about it at all. You can cross post if you want to. I never, I think I did that once or twice and regretted it. Not for any strong reason, just that like, no, I've got my space and it's in my place. I started on Medium and that worked fine until I could build my own site. I would strongly advise against putting content on a platform that you don't own the URL to. So when I started with Medium, I never would have started with Medium if I couldn't customize the URL. And at the time, they still supported custom domains. And so I used a custom domain and then I was able to migrate off. And actually, you can look at my blog post about that, where Medium, where I explain how I moved off from Medium. And yeah, I made an app to redirect blog.kentcdodds.com to kentcdodds.com/blog. And so if you go to blog.kentcdodds.com, then it will redirect you over here, and even some of my older blog posts. So let's see if I can just find one of the older ones. Probably this one. And then if we go to blog, .kentcdodds.com, Yeah, without the /blog. Yeah, I should probably fix that. But I think the URL always included a special what's the word I'm looking for? Like identifier in it, and that's what I redirected. So you can watch this. Yeah, there's an identifier right there, that thing. So I check for that, and then I redirect it to the appropriate blog based on that. I kind of want to test it out, but that's too long. Anyway, so yeah, I would recommend against worrying about that, and just worry about making awesome content. Focus your efforts there, and things will be really good for you. So good luck with your efforts there, Stephen. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So that's it. I'm going to work on workshops some more, because I sold out workshops, and I need to make sure that the workshops are great. So yeah, any last questions, Ben or Taryn? Did you have any other questions?
I feel like I did. Ben, you can go first.
No, I was just gonna say I can always find something, but I'm not gonna try to cram it into this.
Well, we've got a second if you had something.
Do it, Ben. Do it.
Okay. So this is about another pull request that I made just recently, and you suggested taking the schema out of a callback.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there was any reason that you did that in the first place with the for the email validation.
Oh, do I do the callback version with the email validation?
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds familiar. I think there is a reason for that. Now I can't remember what it was. But I think there is. I think I talked to Edmund about it at some point, and he said it's better to do the callback, but I don't know why. So here's what we'll do. Let's ask Edmund. We'll see what he says. Because I don't like the callback just seems unnecessary to me. Because it's going to run immediately anyway.
Right.
It's not like we're allocating extra space unnecessarily. It's not like a use state callback sort of thing. Yeah, so we're actually, if we really cared that much, we're actually in a worse situation here, because we have to allocate space for the function and stuff. And it's just an extra layer of indentation and some more characters. So yeah, let's find out from Edmund. Okay. For those watching, he's the creator of Conform, which we're using here. But I'm pretty sure the callback is unnecessary. So I'll try to remove that. And if we do that, then yeah, let's remove it from the email verification thing too.
So I did make this change in both places in my local copy, and things seem to be working. So.
Which is fine. Yeah, why don't you update the PR for that, and then hopefully Edmund comes back and tells us whether it matters.
So thanks.
Cool. All right, Taryn, did you remember it, Taryn?
Yeah, I remember. So last night I was playing around with transitioning my app from CommonJS, my Remix app from CommonJS to ESM.
Oh, fun.
That's a blast. Yeah.
Before you go on, I have to say, so Epic Stack is using native ESM, and it would definitely not be if it weren't for Oneman, the contributor who's helping with a ton of stuff. Yeah, Oneman has been amazing. Yeah, not just with Epic Stack, but also like all my workshop stuff, a bunch of stuff in the KCD workshop app that people use when they're working through the workshops. A lot of that stuff was helped by Oneman, especially the Windows support. Oneman's been amazing. So just like, thank you, Oneman. All right, go on.
Nice. Thank you, Oneman. So yeah, anyways, I was looking at your website, kcdots.com, and I see you guys are doing ESM as well. And I'm getting issues with the MDX bundler. Did you guys run into that at all?
Yeah, so Oneman did that one also, actually.
Okay.
But I don't recall hearing about or seeing any issues with the MDX bundler. there are like warnings in the console, like this is a native ESM thing. You might consider bundling it. And I hate that because it's like, yeah, but it runs, it evaluates. When I was using CommonJS, I was dynamically importing it, so it worked fine. And as ESM, like I'm ESM, so like this doesn't matter to me because I'm using native ESM. So I think that's actually a bug in Remix. They should not give that warning if you have native ESM enabled. But anyway, outside of that, I don't think I had any problems with MDX bundler.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I saw that error and I was like, what's going on? To the point where I was actually like complaining about a Babel plugin that was inside of the module bundler. I'm like, okay, this is really weird.
Yeah, the Babel plugin, I know that they're using a Babel plugin stuff for HMR, so that could be part of the problem. Yeah, let's see, what else could it be? So was the error that you saw, was it just those warnings, or was it something else?
No, it was like a red actual like error saying it could not find it. Hold on, I probably have it. But basically I was trying to gauge how difficult it would be to switch over from CommonJS to native ESM. So it sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I would say it's non-trivial, and it does require a couple of, well, now you have to import it with the extensions and all that. You have to configure that so that it works. And then I think there's like TypeScript configuration and some stuff you have to do. It's a lot better than it used to be. I remember trying to do this like 2 years ago and it was a garbage. There was no way. It was impossible to use ESM and TypeScript together for some reason. Yeah, it was nuts. But yeah, things are a lot better now. But
non-trivial,
yeah.
non-trivial, and I'm gonna run into issues, so maybe I'll hold off for a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is you will probably bump into libraries that are not ready. Like what libraries sometimes do is they will make a in their package JSON that configure, here's my main and here's my module. And sometimes your server will load the main, but then your client will load the module. And they're not exactly the same. And so the server render works, but then the client hydration breaks or vice versa. And so, yeah, that can be a bit of a pain when, because they just built it wrong. So yeah, there are ways to work around those things. But yeah, it'll be a while before all the libraries just have it working properly, which is really annoying, but it is what it is.
Have you written a blog post about like the shift from CJS to native ESM?
No,
because okay, cool, all right.
Sorry.
Rock the difference between the two, because I know CommonJS fell out of favor, but I wanted to
yeah. Well, actually, I do have a talk. Fun fact on my blog, if you go to /s/whatever, this will do a search across all my content on my website. And so, and if it only finds one result, it'll just redirect you to that result. So my blog post is, it's not a blog post, it's a talk, more than you want to know about ES6 modules. Here it is.
Oh, nice.
So it's it's pretty good. I would recommend probably the Meetup one, just because the audio quality is better, I think.
Okay.
Maybe. Let's see. I recorded this locally. Yeah, so I was giving a talk and I just recorded it on my computer. I think I did the same with this one, but the sound is much better. So anyway, that kind of goes through the history of modules in JavaScript. Might be useful.
Thank you so much. It's good to know that. I thought I was as dumb.
Oh no, you're not dumb. The whole module thing is dumb. But yeah, it's I think that it's worth going to ESM eventually. I wouldn't have done it if OneMin hadn't done it. So you just need to be willing to put in that effort. I'm really grateful to OneMin for doing it, because I do think that it's nice to be able to use native ESM modules without doing dynamic imports.
Is their handle, I just want to check out their stuff if you don't mind. Is it?
Yeah. So if you probably easiest, well, I know it's just OneMin.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if they're on Twitter or if he's on Twitter, but here, let me double check. Yeah. But he is on GitHub as Oneman, and then you can look at the PR on my website. It was a pretty recent one. Update to native ESM.
Sweet.
And like 196 files
Oh
changed.
my God. Okay,
Like,
cool.
like I said, so like every single import needs to now include the absolute path to the file with the extension. I think there's a way to configure things to not have to do that, but I don't think it's worth it. I think you should just try to do as little extra stuff beyond what the spec says as possible. But yeah, like it impacts every file. There are a couple of things that he had to do to account for libraries and stuff not doing things right. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. This is good.
Yeah. I mean, my site is pretty big too. It's like 30,000 lines of code or something. So there's that, but yeah, still. Yeah, so here, in order to prevent this error when running native ESM in production, type error unknown extension JSX, yada, 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 we import it here and add it to server dependencies bundle and remix config. So like you'll run into stuff like this all the time, especially with libraries that are a little older. Yeah, stuff like this where you have to import directly from dist because they're not exporting things properly and stuff.
Okay, cool
So,
beans. Thanks so much, Ken. This is super helpful.
yeah, good luck. I'll stick a link to this in here.
Thank you so much.
If I didn't already. I think I did. There we go. Okay, Jacob, let's sorry, I'm not sure how to say your name. Oh, mine. I'm definitely saying that wrong. Is it Webpack that's doing the magic? In React, we use arrow functions regardless of the order outside the component in the same file. How's this handled? There's nothing magic about this actually. And so the example, so we're defining this function, but before we define it, we actually are calling it in here. But the fact is that this is defined in a function as well. So before example is called, before it's rendered, by that time we've defined this function. So yeah, there's no magic going on here. This is just regular JavaScript stuff. So that is how that works. If you want a simpler rule, just always use function declarations. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to understand the nuances, then yeah, that's what's going on here. I almost always use function declarations, almost always. Jacob, thank you for jumping in here. Ben, did you have any comments based on what Jacob wrote here?
Well, so we are using that same pattern, but it looks like, and maybe it's just circumstantial to our use case. We are seeing the re-render, and that's where some of this image flashing is coming from. And so,
yeah, we need to somehow figure out how to make it not re-render. And what maybe we could do is in that use animated hook thing here. Let's go back to this post so we can look at code. So in this right here, maybe what we could do is no, probably not. Never mind. I was thinking like if you can get the JSX or the React elements that were rendered before, and when you know, oh, we're transitioning, instead of rendering like triggering a re-render, we just like render what it was before. That no, that doesn't make sense. I'm not sure. I wish I was.
yeah, I need to understand how React renders things a lot better.
Yeah.
Really
I feel like if I understood the transition group thing better, then I'd probably know a more obvious answer to this. But yeah, ultimately we just need to prevent the re-render of that component, and then we'll be golden, which sounds like a problem for React.memo maybe, with a custom comparator.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
That's a hook I've never used before. So.
Yeah. Well, it's a higher order component, but yeah, it's kind of when you start using custom comparators, like so the first argument is the component. The second argument is a callback function where you get to decide if it re-renders. Yeah, that is tricky. I'm not sure how that works with context either. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure that you still get to decide, but I don't think you have access to context in there. So I don't know how you could properly decide that. So anyway, probably a really challenging problem, and definitely would prefer to just make it a page instead of a modal. So
yeah, I'll probably direct efforts there if I do continue working on this.
Yeah. And it's fine if you don't, by the way. I can come back and do it differently myself. I definitely will, once I get to that point in the workshops where, in my preparation, the workshops where I'm adding the, getting to the point where it's like, okay, now we need to get to the modal piece. I'll probably change it at that point. So I've already made a couple of little changes. You want to see something kind of cool?
Yeah, sure.
That's for the where am I? No, I don't want to open that. Also, Remix needs to get me off of their 1Password thing. I don't work there anymore. What is it's the web forms workshop. So most of the time with these workshops, I can just like say we're building the epic stack, but sometimes I want to teach something specific that is not something that's in the epic stack, but I want to teach about it. Like we don't have any forms in the epic stack that demonstrate how to do nested objects or field lists. What is this? I need to fix that. But I want to teach about those things. And so what I did was I added a feature to the Notes app where you can upload images. So this may make it into the Notes app eventually. Yeah, so you can add an image with alt text. This is Cody. And you can add as many of these as you like. And oh, what the heck? I need to fix that. There's a bug because that delete button should be right here. Oh, I remember. I know why I broke that. I got to fix that. Okay, anyway, but yeah, so you can add a bunch of images and stuff and just like dynamic as many as you like. It's pretty cool. I feel like oh yeah, here's something else that's awesome. Look, so I can delete this image, add another one, and then I can hit reset and it actually resets. And all this stuff works without JavaScript. It's
that's
amazing.
Pretty crazy.
This is the power of Conform. It's very, very cool. So I am super stoked to have people learn about this stuff. It's so good. Anyway, there was a reason I was just saying, as I work on these workshops, I'm finding things like, oh, that's kind of weird. And so I go back to the Epic Stack and I fix that. And then I teach that in the workshop. So you'll notice the Epic Stack will get like subtle improvements here and there as I work through things in like, for example, the most recent thing, whoops, I stopped it. Most recent thing is the scrolling. Nope, that's the wrong site. Epic Stack. So when you're on the notes page, making this scroll properly, because I wanted to teach, yeah, this is a bad example. I wanted to teach how the scrolling restoration works with Remix, and how to prevent scroll and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's why we added scrolling to this thing. So when you click on, well, here, let's open this up. Sorry, you got me in teacher mode now. So
that's great for me.
We've got, yeah, we've got this scroll view here, and then you click on this, it should scroll you up to the top. And but then if I'm scrolled down here, I don't want it to scroll me up to the top of the page as I'm switching between here, because that would be kind of disruptive. But then if I click on edit, I do want it to scroll me up to the top because now I'm editing this thing. So like being able to control that. So anyway, that's just one example of a situation where I was like, yeah, the Epic Stack doesn't work this way, but I need it to so I can teach this. And so, yeah, you'll see subtle improvements to the Epic Stack over time.
Well, I'll keep up with the workshop repo too. Which
yeah,
is so
yeah,
generously
definitely
open source.
Yeah, so for folks who don't know, I open source all of my stuff. So even though like this is how I make my money, and you might think, hey, you should probably make it all like private and stuff. No, it's all 100% open source. What is this demo repository? I didn't make this. What is this thing? I don't know what this is. I think
maybe when you created the organization.
Yeah, when you create the org. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah, so here's full stack foundation web forms. I may today make a the data modeling one. Depends on if I can finish web forms today. Yeah, anyway, feel free to go through all this stuff, and you can go through it yourself. Like it's the instructions are pretty good. This all renders in the workshop app. Yeah, you go through all this stuff. It's pretty sweet.
And I will testify that it is very nice. And there's a lot of good learning there.
Cool. Okay, I have overstayed my welcome on YouTube. They're about to kick me off. Not just kidding. Yeah, good luck with everything. Thanks for whatever you've done, or whatever. Thanks for everything you have done and whatever you will do in the future. Yeah. Oh yeah, really quick to answer this question. That autocomplete or that autofill thing, that's coming from Better Touch Tool. I think I'm pretty sure that's Better Touch Tool. Could also be Alfred. But yeah, look those things up. You can always see what I use by going to my website /uses, and all of my stuff is in here. So, all right, that's it. If anybody has other questions, oh, by the way, yeah, this is the last office hours for like a month because I'm doing my workshops for the next month. So if you have any other questions that you want answered sooner than a month, then go to the calls app and record your question, and I will answer it. I believe I've got a recording or a call right now from somebody. And so I'm going to answer that soon. But yeah, we're on season 4. Got some contribution from somebody to turn this into seasons instead of just one giant long thing. So that's kind of nice. Okay, I've talked enough. See you all later.